Hello and welcome to ArtandObject. Here we are previewing our auction to be held on the 5th of November. It's a very special dual auction where we honour two of the greats of the New Zealand art world. This was something Ben and I wanted to do to honour the great Colin Mccahon in this his centenary year, and so we have put together an auction of artworks by him that we think represent some of the most excellent periods in his career, and we hope you will enjoy coming along to have a look. Combined with this is works from the collection of Gerrard and Marti Friedlander. Marti was an inspirational photographer, and it's a great honour for us to be able to offer some of the artworks that she had in her home. We're on view now, and we'll be here all over the weekend, 11 till 4, and we have some very special talks coming up over the weekend. The inspiring artist Judy Miller will be here in conversation at 3 o'clock on Saturday, followed by Peter Simpson, the writer who has just released a most excellent book on Colin Mccahon. And on Sunday we have Len Bell at 3 o'clock, and Kathleen Fogarty, long-time dealer of Marti Friedlander, at 4 o'clock, and they'll be sharing some of their insights into Marti and her work. So we hope you'll come along and enjoy viewing these two special auctions, and we look forward to seeing you here. And of course the auction is on Tuesday, the 5th of November at 6:30 p.m.
As Leigh mentioned, we wanted to do something to honour Mccahon and to join in the many celebrations of the artist's work in his centenary anniversary of his birth. And it can be difficult for an auction house to do that. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they said to me, "Oh, well, when you announced the sale, how many, what collections did you have in place for it? How many works did you have in place?" And the simple fact of the matter is we had zero. So it's been immensely satisfying, and we're very grateful to the owners of these works, our vendors, that they've come in behind the idea and supported it. It is entirely unprecedented. I don't think there's ever been a single offering to this extent of any artist's work in this country through an auction, catalogue and presentation. And it's been wonderful the way it's come together. It's, I deplore the word curated in the context of auctions, because clearly we're not curators. But we've tried to, edit it in a way that makes sense and doesn't put too much pressure on any one area of his work or too much pressure on any one aspect of his market. And the overriding sort of theme, I think, when you encounter the 21 lots by Mccahon is what a wonderful colourist he can be. And that's probably not something you normally associate with his practice. Behind me is the magnificent 1959 masterpiece, Elias, Will He Come to Save Him? And we're truly privileged to have this painting for sale. It's been consigned to us from a vendor in Europe. It's been housed there since they bought it from the artist's estate way back in the 1990s, early 1990s. It was last seen in New Zealand in the early 2000s as part of a Question of Faith exhibition, and it comes from one of the most important bodies of Mccahon's work. The Elias paintings is really the first sustained body of written works that Mccahon produces a series of. It's a small series, only some sort of 10 works. Vast majority of them, of course, are in institutions. This one's particularly special for a whole variety of reasons, but one of the main reasons, I think, is it's quite unique within the context of the series by virtue of the medium. It's oil on canvas. If you know the Elias series, and we had one for sale many years ago now, which was more typical in the fact that it was enamel on board. And the oil on canvas creates a whole different aesthetic sensibility. The surface is much lusher, much richer. As you can see from the inscription, it's just so lucid and beautifully inscribed. The painting dominated by the Tau cross. And one of the nice things I think about the show, if we just flash over to the Truth from King Country painting, which is somewhat later, you'll notice the great thing about doing a show like this is the commonalities you can draw out between the various works. And you can see here the structural support in the Tau cross is echoed in much sort of more diminutive fashion, but still no less in the Truth from King Country work. The other thing that the show like this draws out, fleshes out, is crucial stages, crucial moments in the artist's life and career. 1959, as I say, the Elias series, the first major body of written paintings, and many would argue that the most successful body of written paintings. And they're exhibited all together at Gallery 91 in Christchurch. Last time outside of the question of faith that this work was exhibited. And it's a show I think Peter Simpson refers to in his book as perhaps Mccahon's greatest exhibition. I think what's particularly special about the Elias series, as well as coming at a crucial juncture in Mccahon's career, it really strikes to the heart of much of what his practice was about. 1959 is a greatly important year for Mccahon because it was the year he began instruction in the Catholic Church. And the Elias series really cuts to the heart, I guess, of much of what Mccahon's project was about, really. Much of what he was about as an artist. The assertion of self, but also the elements of doubt. If the incorporation of the written word into the painting as subject matter in itself is perhaps what Mccahon is known as most widely for, it is the landscape which I think is the defining trope in Mccahon's entire oeuvre, from the 1930s all the way through to his last painting. It's there, albeit it becomes increasingly abstracted, but the landscape of New Zealand, Aotearoa, is what Mccahon returns to time and time again. And we talked about critical dates with the Elias painting, 1959. Another crucial date, of course, is 1953. 1953, the year the artist moves to Auckland to take up a position at Auckland Art Gallery, and the Mccahon family purchases the small cottage, now known as Mccahon House at French Bay, of course. His work takes a complete turn, and increasingly it becomes, in the short term at least, far more landscape based. You can see here in this beautiful 1954 gouache called Manukau 2, part of a small series he did while taking the bus in from French Bay into work at Auckland Art Gallery. This unholy alliance, this unholy marriage of a European style of European cubism derived from Picasso and Braque to the distinctly Auckland landscape. Again, you can see a continuation of this in the work entitled Kauri Treetops. Mccahon all consumed, as many of us are, with the beauty and fecundity of the West Coast landscape when we moved to Auckland. So what a show like this does, of 20 odd works by a single artist, is it allows you to consider his practice in depth in a way that is unusual for an auction house, in a way that you might normally in a curated exhibition in a public gallery. And the defining feeling I get when I walk around the show, and I've had a bit of a chance to do that now that the catalogue's out and we're on view, is Mccahon's masterly application of paint. He's just a fantastic painter. It's not something you hear about all the time. Normally, you hear more about the message. Of course, Mccahon is the prophet, Mccahon with the message, Mccahon with the story to tell. But when you glance around the show, you get a feeling for just how many styles, how many ways of paint application he was able to do, from the beautifully rendered, delicate surfaces with the feathered brushstrokes of the late Truth Country painting, through to the waterfall painting where you have the sand and the grit mixed into the paint, through to the big, brutal Elias painting, and then down to some of these very beautiful, very delicate watercolours. The three works behind me, I guess, is a more obvious way to display some of the commonalities in Mccahon's work. Obviously, we have three forms dominated by this necessary protection motif of the eye, representing the place where the spirits, Māori spirits, rest at Muriwai before their path north to Ahipara, the empty space between the headland of Muriwai and the small landform off the edge of the coast, represented by this void and this eye form. And the three works together, lovely charcoal on the left entitled Muriwai, High Wind and Rain, the central large work here, light passing through a dark landscape, and the earlier work cross from just the series before the necessary protection works together offer us a wonderful chance to delve into one of Mccahon's key motifs.
One of the bodies of work that Marti Friedlander is most well known for is her series of photographs of New Zealand artists. These were largely commissioned for the book New Zealand Artists A to M, written by Jim Barr and Mary Barr. Unfortunately, the second volume was never published, but we have the photographs to remind us of what might have been. I think Toss Wollaston is the exception in this group of photographs who would have been present in the second volume. It's a wonderful glimpse of the artists themselves, in many cases in their studio or in their home, in their own environment in which they like to observe or paint. There is further evidence in the collection of Marti and Gerrard Friedlander of artists with whom Marti shared a relationship, or perhaps both of them did. Undoubtedly, through Marti's work, they got to meet these artists, and it's inevitable, I suppose, that they would want to add some of these works to their collection. I think there's something quite fabulous about Marti having a work, such an important work of Rosalie Gascoigne's. This painting, Flagged Down, is such a striking example, and I quite like the thought of these two pioneering, strong women artists sharing a relationship with each other. Further examples would include Ralph Hotary, who of course Marti famously photographed, and his great friend Patricia France, of whom there are some beautiful examples of Patricia's painting in this auction. Philip Claremont's painting behind me, Through the Bedroom Window, is a striking example by the artist, and there's a fantastic essay written by Claremont's son Orlando in the catalogue. I urge you to have a look through and read some of the very insightful essays that we have included in these catalogues.